We are taking care of some stuff here, and we are waiting. So I thought I would take in this breathtaking view, but also the energy. And this is an energy that a lot of these people, they like to race through here like 80 miles an hour. And now we're actually forced to kind of take in this backdrop. We'll go ahead and roll down the window because we don't have a bunch of people screaming by here. But one of the things that I'm going to be writing about at offgridco.com, again, I have 4 websites, so I'll be posting things to all the websites, my videos at my main website, but blogs specific to off-grid, solar flares, the upcoming what I call stage managed World War III scenario, as well as the commentary on the paranormal. But off the grid, you can take the person out of Babylon, but you can't necessarily take Babylon out of the person. And this is a quote that I came up with years ago. It's of course mirroring another saying that sounds very similar. And so it's in relation to the current people that are going off grid. Now this can include people that are prepping, people that are preparing for collapse. There's basically the mainstream attitude of even those supposed niche ways of life. Growing food, preparedness, building up your own club, and then trying to dominate the conversation. Wow, this has never been done before. But going off the grid from the way that things have always been done, and ways in which humans have these ego wars and dominant alpha male personalities. Think Mark Passio and the Dominator archetype. So I'm bringing all this to your attention because we're heading towards collapse. Unless people actually, whether the word is prepare that we should be using, or muse, or readapt, or different words to use. Prepare is such a charged survival connotation, but it is what it is. And we can easily fall prey to letting people brainwash us through fear. I've had people tell it to me, say, you can't do that. Or, you won't survive. We're going to be able to get past the line painter here. They're painting the lines. I talk about the survival store experience and what I learned from them. Well, I learned that there's people that are going to position themselves into certain positions so they can sell the most product. And so I remember being told by somebody years ago that there was no hope or point in solar panels because there wasn't enough sun in that particular region, the region of the Pacific Northwest. And people that actually really do live off the grid, not just live out in a trailer somewhere using grid power like this guy did, but people that really live off the grid know the power of solar. You know, and there are people out there that are manipulators and dominators and would-be slave masters that pick and choose when they treat certain people like crap, and when they choose to treat other people with a certain level of respect. Based on how they value other people. Some people could be so blind that they're making the biggest mistake. One of the biggest mistakes. But it's a mistake when people devalue people that actually are valuable because they don't fit the mold. And we have a world of hypocrisy. And as you deal with different groups, if you deal with groups, right? We deal with hypocrisy, and it's really important to identify that. So I gave you an example of people that didn't want to really help people get prepared, that didn't want to carry solar panels because they said that it wouldn't work. And yet I live somewhere off the grid using solar panels. And in a way, there's more electricity coming in than I actually need. I can't necessarily store it in massive quantities with only 2 batteries. But the way that I live as a single male by myself, but even somebody else with a computer would probably be able to use it, there's more than enough power that I get from the sun just because Oregon is a fair amount of distance from Colorado and isn't as close to the sun, right? So I'm telling you is, most people who know about solar power would agree with me. But I've been in situations where would-be cult leaders and dominators were trying to control the conversation, saying, Alex, we're going to say to you, though, that you don't know what you're talking about. And there could be people that have associations with people like that, that later, because they're opportunists, maybe they want to sell a book about a potential upcoming cataclysm, they will be working potentially with other survivalist salesmen that talk about the sun. And normally those people that talk about the sun and or other factors, right, would also find it ridiculous to hear that there are other survival purveyors of products that are dissing the idea of solar panels. I'm using this as a small example. But the question is, would that type of bullshit statement be told to someone that, say, that survival marketer respects? And so, like, there's a number of different examples. Maybe Angelus, who's on the camera, can briefly sum up some examples of what I'm trying to explain. But that's what I'm trying to kind of get through, that people don't understand that there are people out there that are leaders, would-be leaders, organizers, presenters of truth on a certain level. It may not be completely truthful. It may be a little bit of a truth here and there, like a nugget of truth to lead you to a certain direction. But some people are still programmed by Babylon to manipulate certain people and or to treat certain people with a level of disrespect, while acting like they're woke, while acting like they're trying to help people. And the thing is, like, some of the people that are preparing for collapse only seem to know about helping themselves. And this isn't like one person that I'm talking about, or one couple, or one group. This seems to be like the norm. The normal way in which communities form today on Earth, regardless of your gender and state. Unfortunately, the current Homo sapiens continue to come under the thumb of cults and groups that have fallen prey to hive mind. My friend here has also had certain experiences where just because she's Hispanic, it's been assumed that when she's even tried to arrive to buy something, purchase something, I'll leave you to fill in the blank, it's assumed that either she doesn't speak English or she's coming to be a house cleaner. This would be the only person that would be helping Alex Ansary behind the scenes technically with things like database organization, so I don't lose all my websites. Keep that in mind. Yeah, go ahead, Angelus.
Okay, so throughout my career, I've had people just kind of look at me and go, you know, she's Hispanic, doesn't know anything. I've had this happen a couple times. If I were to go in order, I interned somewhere where they did graphics work, so I didn't
You have to be super brief. Go ahead. As long as the battery.
I'm gonna try not
as long
to
as our battery's
take
good.
too long.
Okay.
I worked somewhere where I interned for graphics design, so I do have a graphics design background, although I'm a librarian. In that job, someone made a comment, and this was a young woman to me that, you know, because I would make jokes with them, and apparently in me making jokes and understanding English, the comment came out that, well, I didn't know you were gonna know English that well. And I was totally confused at that statement, because my default brain doesn't go to, oh, that person's white, that's why they don't know how to do it, or they're Hispanic, that's why they don't know, or maybe whatever language barrier. My brain doesn't go there at all. Like, I have no idea. At that time, I was probably a little naive, and the only thing that I was wondering was like, I asked him, what do you mean? Why wouldn't I know English very well? I mean, I do have a degree and all this stuff. Like, suddenly, because, and I didn't say this part, later on I figured out what she meant was, and she turned really red. This woman, who was a young white woman, turned beet red, because she knew exactly what she was thinking and I didn't. That years later, when I thought over it, I was like, you know what she meant? She meant was that I was looking Hispanic or Mexican, and that my English was not supposed to be that good. So I figured it out later. Yeah, that's the first time I kind of actually registered a noticeable level of like a bit of racist behavior.
I just gotta add in my experience creating alternative media content, I've faced experiences where I feel like I've been called crazy or treated a certain way, only to see hypocrisy, i.e., let's say if I'm called a conspiracy theorist, let's say if I'm called crazy, by a person that later surrounds themselves with hardcore versions of that. And there's variants of this. Then I asked myself years later, although no one will admit it, what was the real reason for me being the one specifically seen as if I'm invading the truth movement or invading some sort of a topic that they may perceive or wish they had a monopoly on? As if somehow my perspective is tainted, whereas others are not. And, you know, I think this point is pretty important to make. Someone could call me crazy for talking about the Archons and then turn around and engage with people that do the same thing, but they're not crazy. Now, when it's hypocrisy that obvious in someone's face, why would someone not have the intelligence to put two and two together when it's crazy and threatening if some people have an opinion or on politics or anything, from supernatural to spirituality to escaping the matrix to the political arena? It seems threatening if the person speaking is perceived as being too genetically different than the person hearing the message. I believe that is the real reason, combined with my topics, why I am suffering so much online and with low view counts and the algorithm and with like a misinterpretation of what I mean. If I'm giving spiritual ideas to people that may be Caucasian to help them escape the matrix, that is not being anti-white. If someone's going to perceive someone being having an agenda that is nefarious for being outside the box, that is not good. I mean, that very thinking itself comes from cult-like thinking. I just wanted to add that in as you're saying that, because, and you're feel free to get into that in your occupation dealing with the public, you're even treated a certain way by other minorities. You said even people that are black or people of color, we're not attacking black people, but you repeatedly are treated like trash by black people because you're Mexican, let's just say.
Yeah, I've had a few black people react in the exact same way. Like, I found it bizarre. So one of
And is this something that has always been this way, or is this something that you've seen an escalation of in, say, the last 3 years or 4 years?
If, you know, it doesn't happen often enough, but maybe I guess maybe a little bit more now with the president in office. People have an excuse to be more racist, like...
The algorithm is promoting black people that hate immigrants, and there's going to be denial and even anger and thumbs down at me saying that. It's true. They have rolled out this carpet for the black conservative that will just simply be angry that there are other minorities existing. Like, let's talk about slavery. Let's talk about racism. But pitting like one racial group against another, that doesn't work, but that's what's happening. And we're seeing like how AI is feeding into that. We need white people, brown people, black people, and purple people, and other forms of life to wake the fuck up. Because I'm interviewing you and you're sharing the story, but the people at home that may not be in our shoes, in our bodies, they may have no clue that like society's changing this way. They don't seem to understand that with love. They don't seem to have the loving understanding that there are other experiences other humans are having.
Like, one thing that really puzzled me was when the black man or whatever would come up and talk to me, they would talk to me like I didn't know anything, like I didn't have any skills, even though I was a librarian on duty, right? So their first comment would always be something to the effect of like very snide, kind of being like, you don't do anything when you're at home, you don't do anything here. And actually I had another lady say the same thing that week. Like, they'll look at me once and say, you don't do anything at home or here. And I go, where is this coming from? I mean, obviously I'm not going to be busy at a public desk and ignore all the customers. I mean, this is coming from somewhere else. And I've had on 2 separate occasions 2 black guys come up to me. First thing they said, you don't do anything. And then when they realized that I knew like some of the stuff that I'm helping Alex with, like databases and back end stuff, suddenly they were...
That would take me a significant amount of months to a year to learn how to do myself through many hours that would take me away from my own content to watch tutorials.
I mean, we're talking about, you know,
like very
managing
specific stuff.
PHP, my admin, and stuff that I wasn't trained in, but would cost good money if you
learned
were...
a few things, I guess, over the last few years in the website.
This kind of stuff would cost good money if you were to hire someone. So at that point, one of the guys was like, oh, you can do that. Well, now suddenly I'm interested in what you're saying because now I have some way to use you, right? But I realized that I probably look Hispanic enough to where someone will look me up and down and be like, nah, she doesn't know anything.
I'll just pipe in. We've also had people just trying to use us maybe for free websites. There was side talk between us two about maybe earning me some revenue, split it a certain way to maybe get people to put up just a little bit of money to have a decent website made citing my current websites, because most people's websites are shit. And people are very stingy with paying a basic amount for basically something that is equivalent of a business card. And there's something about it that's devalued in the eyes of a lot of people. Last comment, and then I'm gonna pause again to hear more, but if I make a mistake, like with mechanics or something, like I already have an appearance that some people say is un-American or not American enough, like certain mistakes that, like, I'm just not mechanically inclined. I'm abnormally autistic mechanically, but I'm super intelligent other ways. But people can really look down upon someone who looks different, who's not a mechanic, like they're suspecting them of being, let's just say it, the F word, a foreigner. And there are people here, rednecks in rural Colorado, that have a way of taking the differences in someone in their car, the fact that I drive a car, not a truck, as like, wow, that guy doesn't know how to live in America, in the woods, without realizing that I'm nearly 40 and I've never left this country. This country's never been more fucked, and the collective audience of those that are viewing this content around YouTube are not admitting the truth. They're lying to themselves. They're not on the path to healing. It's going to get worse. And so, like, a lot of maybe of what we're doing on one level, I think that I'm trying to assist the souls of those in which the evil is trying to corrupt them. On another level, I feel like my work has to transition to helping, including people of color, the next generation that's going to come up more programmed than us, because society's acting like it's sitting in a lotus position, like it's woke. And instead, like, we're actually living experiences that are measurably worse in relation to people that are programmed than 5 years ago. And that's the truth. We're not sitting here making a fake video on YouTube to manipulate you. And so, like, how is there hope for a world to survive collapse and permaculture and people coming together if you have this level of programming that's fucking people up? And I've been trying to warn Hispanics, and I think that they're going through things they never experienced before. If you have this type of programming that America has always been invaded by rapists at an accelerating rate, and that, like, this is like terrorism, and like people should be separated from their family, and then you have people programmed to have no feelings, to call them all rapists, that's psycho. It's a stepping stone for some bad shit like gas chambers and concentration camps or other forms of violence. That's how I see America. I don't see a more peaceful America coming, and it's not going to be more peaceful for white people to keep acting like these things aren't happening, because some people benefit from being favored by either the algorithm or social statuses or the employers of today's day and age. And it isn't all the same. At least now the algorithms are catching up with the way that things have always been. And that's what's terrifying about the future of algorithms for anyone that's not white in the future. I'll pause with that. You can continue.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I guess overall, I think, you know, as far as me, and I know some people are probably the same, maybe they don't see the racism overtly, but when it comes down to it and someone you keep hearing the same thing, like, you don't know anything, you're the cleaning lady, oh, you're teaching what now? And I go, where is this coming from? Why can't I look like I can teach something? Or
I've met countless people into solar flares that won't even write down my solar flare website. Or immediately when I was talking to the Wells Fargo lady, not to rudely interrupt, but I thought it was appropriate to add this in, the Wells Fargo lady was like, oh, that sounds kooky. So I can talk about something kooky, but that same topic could be on Coast to Coast AM, where someone else is being recognized at a conference or at a lecture.
right.
They're speaking about the topic, but when Alex talks about it, that's kooky. That might even be demonic. But when we have, like, white people and spiritualist movement, political movements, all that shit's fine. It's like, and all that stuff that I've done to warn people about China seems buried by the algorithm. There's tons of people that are going to be concerned about China in the future. Are they then going to go, well, this Alex Ansary guy may have been, like, marginalized for years, but now I respect him because he, like, gave us this awesome documentary about something that could happen or is happening. Will that happen, or will I even be erased off the earth then? So, like, I don't think the people alive today get it, even if they like some of our content or us as people. Like, oh, we like you. We like the sound of, we like how you have healing attributes. Yeah, because we're healers in a way. We are shamans in a way. That's why we're friends. We are here to help you in a way, your world. But we aren't here to turn over, to bend over, and then be mounted. And that's the thing that people that act like they're friendly don't get. The world naturally wants to mount us and put us in this type of receivership of it. And that's not going to play with us. That's not going to work out with us. And we our whole lives had to reject that. Even as a woman, haven't you dealt with weird type of...
Oh yeah, I've had...
would walk home and people would say things that I know my mother didn't go through as a teenager.
Right. Well, when I was younger, I had to work because obviously my father wasn't the greatest. So, you know, even at the job, I would get hit on.
Catch the sky here as we pass through town. Catch the chemtrails. The sky. As you talk, just continue talking.
Okay, well, it's almost like I've had to work twice as hard for everything. And working in public places, I did have like very old men, you know, come at me and just try to see if they could use me. And
like what?
Well, many.
You liar.
Many guys.
Only white women are sexually assaulted.
Well, see, I had to walk home. I didn't have a ride. People were very into themselves. I couldn't get a ride.
You're talking about other ghetto people.
This is when I was younger, when I was working.
Other ghetto people.
People that lived like
not like your ghetto, but people in the ghetto.
Yeah, people in the ghetto.
Are we talking about
it wasn't
ritzy
that
downtown?
No, just like a urban area with apartments and stores. So for me to get a ride home was apparently a monumental task for anyone else, even if they lived a block away from me. This is how bad people were. Even though they appeared nice, you couldn't get a ride. So when I would either walk to my job or walk home, like I think one time someone stopped, and this was midnight, it's past midnight. I get off at midnight, and I think a car stopped, and I'm wondering if they were going to kidnap me now, because when they saw, this was the only time my brother walked over to escort me. When they saw him across the street, they took off like right away, like really quick. Other times I would walk to work, guys would be hanging out their windows going, I'm gonna kidnap you, where are you going? You know, like those not whistling, but like
right.
noises.
Many women do not grow up being taunted by what you just described.
Right.
They don't. They act like they have, because I think maybe they're attacked by demons, because we are as humans, but they don't acknowledge that a lot of people have grown up with a certain level of safety. I know this for a fact, from men hurting them, and haven't had to deal with that. So society acts like it cares about some women, and it shows that it actually doesn't care about others. We talked about how, did you say there was an Hispanic woman that went missing and there was no major reporting, as if, you know,
yeah, you know, where I live,
we hear 1,000 times about little Amber Alert.
Yeah, recently, like 2 weeks ago,
right,
a lady went missing in my city. Like a small town, right?
Right. But if we talk about this and try
reports.
to assert our humanity, people are acting like they're being attacked.
There's no Amber
Alert. To add
Alert.
to the mind control, we're just trying to assert our humanity, that other lives have matter, and yet there are those that are sensitive to this type of dialogue. That's what has my interest, that as it actually, or concern, as it actually gets worse, the people that we would think would be our friends or audience members, the people that we would think love us or care about us or our message, they're the ones often that are the ones, at least I can speak in my case, that are the ones that are giving us the cold shoulder. I went this whole time since 911 alone in this world, and especially since speaking my truth. No one could say they've matched a similar life experience the last 20 years and have faced the same level of marginalization, never wondering, right, why certain things didn't go through. And the world, especially like those that act like they're different than the evildoers, that act like they're friendly to us, the world seems to have a big agenda to say, you're crazy, you have no value, it has nothing to do with your blood. And yet, I'm reading about like unmarked graves to where they're not even counting the dead or the people that share my blood. And yet, I think it makes people uncomfortable to even hear that reality, that I share blood with them. I know that there's a sizable group of humans that wish I was just different, and or in this body or biology, that I didn't have these levels of pain, that they perceive me as mentally unstable or crazy for having feelings, and that I marked with the stigma probably for the rest of my life. I even perceive danger coming, unless there is hardcore on the level of archangels that are real level protection, major level protection, asset of the creator protection, as if it's a spiritual organization or something that's beyond the human form. But I know that we are like droplets of something else. We are like droplets of some sort of a larger soul construct.
Maybe I can butt in here for a second. I think, fortunately, I didn't fall into like the worst scenario, even though I was surrounded by not the best people and, all these perverts and thugs and gangsters. I didn't fall to their level. And maybe Alex hasn't himself fallen to a level
but yeah,
trying to get at. Because in my intuition, we have had, training from past lives. So for me, something like that was a lot easier to avoid. Like if my soul energy comes through, and when I was younger, I say, I am not dealing with any of that stuff or these people. And then I don't get caught up with crazy stalker perverts, and I don't get caught up with drugs, because I already know what the future holds for that path in life. So yeah, there's not only maybe like a divine protection, but there's also the soul experience and, realizing maybe I shouldn't do that, or maybe I shouldn't do